ministers are walking on a sandy road leading out of the city. They notice a camel's hoof marks. The ministers talk to each other about the hoof marks. Second minister, look, a camel has gone ahead of us on the road. A man comes along from the other side of the road. He looks very unhappy. Here, when the ministers left the kingdom, they were walking on a road and they were noticing that the hoof marks of a camel, and they were talking and discussing about that hoof marks, and suddenly that time a man appeared and he was very unhappy. Have you seen a camel anywhere? I have lost my camel. Third minister, is your camel lame in one leg? Man, yes, he is. Second minister, is your camel blind in one eye? Man, yes, he is. First minister, was your camel carrying a load of honey and wheat? Man, happy and pleased. Yes, that's my camel. Where did you see him? Third minister, we haven't seen your camel. Here, when the ministers were walking and they were discussing over the hoof marks of the camel, that time a man appeared and he was very sad and unhappy as he lost his camel. And when he saw these ministers, he inquired about his camel. And then the ministers asked him several questions. Third minister asked about the leg of the camel, that, is your camel lame? The man said, yes. Then the second minister asked him, is your camel blind in one eye? The man said, yes. He became very happy. Then the first minister asked about the camel, that was his camel carrying a load of honey and wheat? The man became very happy and pleased, and then he said, yes, the camel they had seen was his camel. And then he asked that where did they see him? Then the third minister said that they didn't see his camel. And then the man became very angry, and he said angrily to them, you know as much about my camel as I do, and yet you say you have never seen him? I do not believe you. If you don't give my camel back to me, I'll take you to the king. The first minister said, we'll go with you. Here, when the ministers said that they had not seen his camel, the man became very angry, and he said that they knew so much about the camel, and he believed that they had taken his camel, and he asked to return his camel, but they did not have. And then the man said, if you did not return, then he would take to the king's court. He would take to all the ministers to the king's court. And the ministers said, okay, you take us, we are ready to go there. The king's court. The king is seated on the throne. The man and the ministers appear before him. In scene 3, where the king was in his own court, the man and the ministers entered. And there the man said, Your Majesty, please help me. These 3 men have stolen my camel and are not giving him back. King, why do you say that? Man, they know everything about my camel. They know that he is blind in one eye and lame in one leg, and that he was carrying honey and wheat. Yet they are saying that they have never seen him and do not know where he is. Here, the man said to the king that he was sure that the ministers have stolen his camel, as they described the camel very well. The camel is blind in one eye and lame in one leg, and he was carrying honey and wheat. He was sure that the ministers have stolen his camel and they were not ready to return his. The ministers said, First Minister, it is true, Your Majesty, we have not seen this man's camel. King, you should be ashamed of yourselves for telling such lies. How can you know so much about the camel if you have never seen him? First Minister, we are speaking the truth. We have not seen the camel. We'll explain how we know so much about the camel. Here, when the man said that the ministers have stolen his camel and they were not ready to return, the king became very angry and he said to the ministers that it is not a good thing that you all people are telling such lies. And he said, how could you know so much about the camel if you have never seen him? Then the ministers said that it is true that they have not seen this man's camel. The minister tried to explain all these things. The second minister added, as we were walking along the road, we noticed several things. We noticed a camel's hoof marks on the road. 3 of those marks were always very clear, but the 4th was not. So we could tell that the camel limped as it was lame in one leg. The second minister explained to the king that when they were walking on the road, they noticed several things about the camel and they noticed a hoof mark, a camel's hoof marks on the road, and noticed that 3 of those marks were very, very clear, but the 4th was not. So they understood that the camel limped. Here, limped means one who is not able to walk properly. So they understood that the camel was lame in one leg. Third minister, we also saw that the leaves of trees on one side of the road had been nibbled upon by a tall animal, while the trees on the other side had not been touched. So we gathered that the camel was blind in one eye. Here, the third minister added in front of the king that when they were walking, they saw that only one side of the road, the leaves of trees on one side of the road had been nibbled. Nibbled means add something in small bites. And they noticed that the leaves were nibbled by a tall animal and the other side had not been touched. The animal did not eat. So they understood the animal was blind in one eye. First minister. Thirdly, there were many flies on one side of the road and a few grains of wheat on the other. So we thought that the camel must have been carrying honey and wheat. King to the man, these men are very clever and truly wise. They have not seen your camel. You must look for him yourself. Here, when the first minister said that they saw many flies on one side of the road and few grains of wheat, so they understood that the camel was carrying a load of honey and wheat, only because fly always come on honey, sweet thing, and there were some grains also. So they said that they understood, and while listening this, the king understood that the ministers were very clever and truly wise, and they did not see the man's camel. And the king said to the man that they had not seen his camel and he should look for himself. The king turns to the 3 wise men. I must give you a reward and not punish you. Please stay in my court and help me rule my people wisely and well. I cannot lose such wise men. Here, at the last, the king understood that the ministers were really very wise and they would help him to rule his kingdom. So he requested them to not leave his country, and he said that he really did not want to lose those wise men, and he said that he would really give them reward and not punish them. And there the ministers stayed once back in the king's court.